Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where...
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like...
Fucker! You fucker! Hey, fucker!
Oh!
Huh? What the f...
To watch as his younger daughter and wife are raped and killed. Desperate for justice, Clyde begs his attorney, Nick Rice, to punish these criminals to the full extent of the law. But one of the criminals turns on the other and points him as being the one who actually did the raping and killing, when in fact he's lying to save his own ass. This causes the lesser, more vicious criminal to get the death penalty, while the actual real threat only gets 3 years in prison. Unable to accept this form of some victory is better than no victory at all from his attorney, Clyde decides to take revenge into his own hands and devises secret, elaborate methods to kill both of his family's murderers. When Clyde is arrested and detained by Nick Rice, Clyde tells Nick that if he does not release him and drop all of his charges, then hundreds of people are going to die. Thinking he's bluffing, Nick Rice doesn't take him too seriously until he finds out that Clyde has set up elaborate devices, machines, and contraptions outside far in advance in order to kill everyone who Clyde feels has aided or participated in the ruining of his family's life. And so Nick now must make the choice in order to either free Clyde and drop all charges, or try to stop Clyde's variety of machinations that are outside the city killing people, and hopefully to stop him before everyone he knows and works with him dies. Review the plot. I think it's weird that most people originally pegged this film as a kind of death wish, death sentence kind of revenge thriller film. I mean, I thought that too initially, but as I actually saw that, the whole revenge thing kind of takes a backseat to this whole, what I like to call, mousetrap theory. Basically, it's just, the movie focuses primarily on just how brilliant and ingenious these machines are, and just how creative you can actually kill someone. It's nowhere near as retarded or overly blown to insane proportions like the god-awful Saw series. I mean, come on, just die already. Saw 6, 7, and they're going to Saw 8. Give me a break. But anyway, this film is more about that. I was kind of disappointed that they ignored the whole tragedy of the death thing. I mean, it's kind of pushed back. I mean, even Death Sentence, and which is similar to this film, tend to ignore that part at least a little bit more effectively than this movie. This one, I just kind of brushed it away really quickly. But I have to say, this movie really knows how to keep things interesting. It's constantly tense and dramatic, and the key thing that I think works with this dark story is that you never know where, death is going to come. You never know what form of machine or revenge method is going to come at you. And you feel just as surprised as the characters in the film, because you're overly impressed at just how genius this guy is. And while at times it does kind of border a little beyond reality, you don't think someone could seriously be this intelligent, but in real life there are people who are probably even smarter than this guy. So to me, that wasn't too hard to accept in the movie. And I think by relying and focusing on that concept, this the elaboracy of the conspiracy of the traps, it made the film far more interesting than a simple revenge thriller. So in that way, it really worked. Review of the characters. Despite the fact you got a really good rounded amount of people for the side characters, like you got Scary Movie's Regina Hall as Jamie Foxx's wife. You got Leslie Bibb, who's an up-and-coming actress, who I've seen her in such films as Trick or Treat and that. They do a very good job pulling up the supporting staff. I mean, I've seen guys like Bruce McGill and Colm Meaney before. I've seen Colm in Con Air and Bruce McGill in Tales from the Crypt and My Cousin Vinny. So you got a lot of good side supporting characters. The problem is that most of the faults tend to fall with the main cast. Jamie Foxx is someone who's been constantly credited as being an excellent actor, and from his past work, I would not disagree with that statement. But here, along with most of the other people, it kind of feels like everyone's kind of just reading it at a second-rate performance. They're not terrible, but knowing these actors, having seen their work before, with pretty much everyone in the main cast, I would say you could have all done a lot better than this. Jamie Foxx was good. He had his moments, but for the most part, I felt he was a little too dry here. And this also helps in one area. This one part actually ends up looking better because of everyone. That is with Gerard Butler, who is the real star in both the story-wise and the character-wise and acting-wise. He was absolutely brilliant. He was very good, very menacing, very clever. He had a great smart-ass sense of humor, which is another weird thing about this movie. He's got a very dark sense of humor, and it kind of worked, particularly with Gerard Butler's character. And he's a very talented actor. He's more than just, the crazy, this is Sparta, King Leonidas guy. He has a lot of depth, a lot of talent, a lot of emotions, and really good channeling of these dark energies in his face. He really gets the sense of the character down to a perfect T in his mannerisms, in his vocal approach, and just the way he looks, just the way he raises his eyes, the way he looks at the camera. You really get a sense for how deep he's bonded with the character. And that's the sign of a good actor, if you ask me. Review the music and cinematography. Cinematography is good. A lot of the shots really make good, well use of the intensity of the scenes, particularly when you see Clyde Sheldon just staring at Jamie Foxx through all these cameras and just bogging down straight on, like he's looking into his soul, and particularly with the machines that end up actually killing the people. They're all very creative, and it's shot in such a way that even though you see some of this stuff coming, the impact isn't diminished at all. It's still just as intense and important as what you're seeing. And that's a good way to do a revenge thriller because it puts you in the seats of the characters and makes you feel just as overwhelmed and shocked as they are. Music was good. You got some nice dark tones in here. It really, again, helps with the intensity and the drama, since that's what the whole point of the movie was, keeping you on your toes, keeping you freaked out, and keeping you on the edge. And at first, it does start off kind of dry. I mean, it's very simple, blasé, second-rate music and acting in the beginning, but once it gets right along, it gets really good. And I at first thought I had this movie all figured out by the first half of it, but once it really kicks in, it gets you in really good. You're hooked in, and it really changed my mind about this movie. It definitely got me hooked. It's not as hooked as, say, Death Sentence is with me, because I love that movie, but this one definitely knows how to keep you interested. Flaws about the film. As I said, some of the actors gave second-rate performances. I was particularly disappointed with Jamie Foxx in this. I felt the family tragedy was kind of moved along too quickly. They didn't take enough time on there to appreciate it, or at least let it soak up and get the misery juices stewing around a bit. I think the biggest problem with Law Abiding Citizen is that it relies solely on this cool, inventive streak gimmick. And that's really good. But I think that stops the film from going any farther than it should be. I think this movie could have been some great emotional, in-depth performances from everyone when you're dealing with such dark subject material here. I think this movie just did the bare minimum of what it was trying to do and stopped before it got any further, which is a shame because I love revenge stories, and every time I go, you hear people cheering for the guy who's killing these criminals, even though we really wouldn't do that probably in public. But either way, it's like this film could have done more, but didn't. Final wrap-up, Law Abiding Citizen, just is not that deep in terms of how far it could have gone. It had more potential to do more. You got a couple second-rate performances from some great actors who usually do great material, particularly Jamie Foxx, but there is enough of this movie that I would say that I would recommend to go seeing it. I know everyone's probably going to be seeing Where the Wild Things Are, but this is one that I think will definitely suck you in on just how inventive and dark and intense it is. Gerard Butler is fantastic, some great cinematography. It's a cool idea that's executed, not perfectly, but just enough that I would say it's worth your time and your money, because this is that good and that intense of a movie. Bottom line, I give Law Abiding Citizen 3 stars out of 5 stars. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Sign for BS Reviews. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice. Bye for now.